Do you know how to make $200 million in the shortest time, specifically within one day? Is it robbery? Robbery is not right. It must be bank robbery. Now let me review the top 5 biggest bank robberies that have ever happened in the world. Before watching the details, don't forget to like and follow the channel to receive the latest notifications for the next videos.
First, we'll look at heist number 5, the Great British Bank Robbery, Knightsbridge Security Deposit, 1987, the daring cash and jewelry heist that netted £60 million in 1987, the equivalent of $200 million in 2024. This heist might not be the largest in absolute monetary terms, but its audacity and style cemented its place in history. It was July 12, 1987, in Knightsbridge, one of London's wealthiest districts, England. A well-dressed man, appearing to be a high-class client, walked into the Bank of England branch housing the Knightsbridge security deposit vaults. He was Valerio Vice, a notorious Italian bank robber who had fled to England after 50 heists in his home country. Vice wasn't alone. He and his accomplices had planned every detail meticulously. Initially, he entered the bank requesting to rent a safe deposit box. Once escorted into the vault area, he pulled out a gun, subduing the bank manager and staff. The main bank doors were immediately locked up, and a "Sorry, we're closed" sign was hung up. Meanwhile, Vice's accomplices had entered from outside, bringing specialized equipment. They weren't just targeting a few safe deposit boxes. Their intention was to clean the place out. Over 2 hours later, Vice's crew had breached 120 individual safe deposit boxes, brimming with cash, jewelry, and other valuables. The total estimated value of stolen money and assets was approximately £60 million at the time. To put this into perspective, £60 million in 1987, adjusted for exchange rates and inflation, would be equivalent to about $200 million US in 2024. This was a colossal sum, enough to buy over 50 luxury apartments in central London at the time, or to build a private yacht fleet. One of the things that made this case so famous was how Vice and his accomplices escaped. They calmly drove away from the bank, blending into London's bustling traffic without immediate detection. It took the police some time to realize what had happened. However, Vice's audacity was also his downfall. He was overly confident, even boasting about the heist. Police tracked him down and arrested most of his associates just weeks later. Vice escaped from England and returned to Italy. However, overconfident, he returned to England in October 1987 to pick up his favorite Ferrari Testarossa. Police ambushed and arrested him after a chase. Vice was eventually sentenced to 22 years in prison.
Next up is robbery number 4, the Antwerp Diamond Center heist, 2003, a heist that still baffles security experts to this day. The total value of the stolen goods was estimated at $100 million in 2003. To put that in perspective, with inflation, that would be about $165 million in 2024. From the bustling streets of London, we move to Antwerp, Belgium, the diamond capital of the world. Here in February 2003, a heist occurred that to this day still puzzles security experts. This wasn't just a regular bank robbery. This was a heist targeting one of the world's largest diamond vaults, considered impenetrable. The Antwerp Diamond Center vault is located underground, protected by multiple layers of security. Heat sensors, seismic sensors, Doppler radar, a lock with 100 million possible combinations, and the thick steel door. According to experts, breaching it was deemed impossible. Yet, a group of thieves led by Leonardo Notarbartolo proved otherwise. Notarbartolo's crew planned for nearly 2 years. They didn't use violence. Instead, they used intellect, patience, and incredible observational skills. Notarbartolo posed as a diamond merchant for years, renting an office in the building, befriending security personnel, and learning every nook and cranny of the system. He even acquired duplicate keys and disabled the surveillance camera system. On the night before the heist, Notarbartolo's team bypassed every layer of protection. They neutralized heat sensors by spraying hairspray, covered optical sensors with tape, and used a specialized device to open the vault's 100 million combination lock. They took 123 out of 160 safe deposit boxes, filled with raw diamonds, cut diamonds, gold bullion, cash, and various pieces of jewelry. The total value of stolen assets was estimated at $100 million in 2003, adjusted for exchange rates and inflation, would be equivalent to about $165 million in 2024. Think about it, $100 million in diamonds isn't just a pile of cash, it's an enormous fortune, enough to buy about 30 brand new Ferrari Enzos at the time, or fund a major scientific research project for many years. Most astonishingly, to this day, the majority of the stolen diamonds have never been recovered. Notarbartolo and some of his accomplices were arrested after police found his DNA on a discarded sandwich near the crime scene. However, Notarbartolo was only sentenced to 10 years in prison and has always remained silent about the missing diamonds.
We come to robbery number 3, the Dar es Salaam bank heist, Baghdad 2007. A robbery with no gunshots, no recorded public violent confrontation, but quietly stole about $282 million in 2007, equivalent to about $410 million in 2024. From sophisticated capers in Europe, we rewind time and space to a completely different setting. Baghdad, Iraq in 2007 at the height of the Iraq War. Amidst chaos and lawlessness, a bank heist occurred whose scale dwarfed all previous cases. This was the Dar es Salaam bank heist. On March 18, 2007, as the city of Baghdad was engulfed in violence and instability, an unthinkable heist took place. What's remarkable is that no gunshots were fired and no public violent confrontations were reported. This heist is believed to have been carried out by the bank's own security guards. 3 security guards vanished along with an immense amount of cash. They secretly broke into the bank's vault, which was rumored to contain a large amount of cash used by the Iraqi government and the U.S. military to fund operations and reconstruction projects. These 3 perpetrators calmly loaded the cash into vehicles and disappeared into Baghdad's chaotic night. The total amount of money stolen was estimated at approximately $282 million US in 2007. Adjusted for exchange rates and inflation, would be equivalent to about $410 million US in 2024. Imagine that, $410 million US. That's enough money to buy a brand new Boeing 747 or to build a large modern hospital. The most terrifying thing is that to this day, the fate of this money and the perpetrators remains a great mystery. Iraqi authorities launched an investigation, but no significant results have ever been announced. Amidst the chaos of war, it's easy for large-scale heists like this to be concealed or overshadowed by other violent news. Next came the much larger and more daring heist, the Central Bank of Iraq robbery, 2003, which directly implicated one of Iraq's most powerful men at the time. The total amount taken was $920 million US in cash. That's right, almost $1 billion in cash. $920 million in 2003 would be worth about $1.5 billion US in 2024. If the Dar es Salaam case was shocking, this next heist was even larger and more brazen, directly involving one of Iraq's most powerful figures at the time. This was the Central Bank of Iraq robbery in March 2003, just one day before the US-led invasion of Iraq began. On March 18, 2003, just hours before the first bombs of Operation Iraqi Freedom began to fall on Baghdad, an armored truck pulled up to the Central Bank of Iraq. It wasn't an armed gang. Instead, a man believed to be Saddam Hussein's son, Qusay Hussein, arrived at the bank with a handwritten letter from Saddam himself. The letter ordered the central bank to withdraw all the cash from its vaults and hand it over to Qusay. The stated reason was to protect the money from looters or from being destroyed in the impending war. Bank employees, in a situation where they could not resist a direct demand from the president, spent hours filling boxes and sacks with $100 bills. A total of 3 trucks were loaded with cash. The total amount withdrawn was $920 million US in cash. That's right, almost $1 billion in cash. This was a mind-boggling figure at the time. For comparison, $920 million in 2003, adjusted for exchange rates and inflation, would be equivalent to about $1.5 billion in 2024. Imagine $1.5 billion. That's a sum larger than the annual budget of many small nations. It's enough to buy over 5 modern F-35 fighter jets or to fund a developing nation's space program for many years. Most of this money was later recovered by U.S. forces. Around $650 million was found hidden in the walls of one of Saddam's palaces. However, approximately $270 million remains unaccounted for. This was a politically motivated heist, carried out under the guise of protecting national assets, but in reality, it was the appropriation of public funds by a regime. Heist number 1. The final heist also involved the most powerful figure in Iraq at the time, the Central Bank of Iraq under Saddam Hussein, 1990 to 2003. This heist was a series of actions that lasted throughout Saddam Hussein's reign, culminating in 1990 and 2003. The total amount of money and gold removed from the Central Bank of Iraq was huge, between $10 billion and $30 billion. This was not a heist that happened overnight, but a prolonged series of acts, directly involving dictator Saddam Hussein and his family. We are talking about the systematic looting of the Central Bank of Iraq throughout his reign, culminating in 1990 and 2003. This heist wasn't just a single event. It was a continuous process where Saddam Hussein's regime used the Central Bank of Iraq as a personal fund to finance wars, consolidate power, and enrich himself and his family. During the First Gulf War, 1990-1991, when Iraq faced international sanctions, Saddam and his son, Uday Hussein, ordered the withdrawal of massive amounts of cash and gold from the Central Bank of Iraq. This money was ostensibly for war expenses and to be stored in safe locations. Post-war reports estimated that throughout Saddam's time in power, and particularly in the final days of the regime, the total amount of money and gold withdrawn from the Central Bank of Iraq reached a staggering sum, between $10 billion and $30 billion. Think about that number. $30 billion. To put it in perspective, in 2003, $30 billion in 2003, adjusted for exchange rates and inflation, would be equivalent to about $49 billion in 2024, adjusted for inflation. This is a shocking figure. $49 billion is more than the annual GDP of many small nations. It's enough to build an entirely new city or fund universal health care for tens of millions of people. It's equivalent to buying about 150 Boeing 747 aircraft or the entire aircraft carrier fleet of a medium-sized nation. The vast majority of this money has vanished without a trace. While some gold bullion and cash were found in various locations, most of it remains a mystery. This was not just a bank heist. This was a national robbery, an abuse of power on the most horrific scale. It shows that when absolute power is abused, no security system or principle can stand in the way of human greed.
We have just gone through the top 5 biggest bank robberies in world history. If you want me to do more topics, please subscribe to my channel and leave a comment below this video. I will make a video on the topic that gets the most votes.